Hello and welcome to another episode of Unreleased or Unobtainable, a series where I either look at games that were never released or are extremely expensive because they're rare and were sold in limited quantities. This is achieved through the miracle that is emulation, since a lowly YouTuber like myself cannot afford the thousands of dollars that Unobtainables go for, and because the unreleased are simply that. I'm cheating a bit with the formula of this video because I'm not sure where else I can fit it on my channel. Thus, this will be a mix of a traditional review and a typical unreleased or unobtainable episode. For one, LSD Dream Emulator was released, but isn't exactly unobtainable either compared to subjects of previous videos. It saw a limited release in Japan only, so presently sells for at least $1,000 on eBay. AdSense isn't exactly paying the rent around here, so I can't afford that for a single video. Sorry. However, I'm using my newly built Pico mem card to softmod my PlayStation, so I will at least be playing this on real hardware. That aside, the abstract Japanese-only release about a dream journal became a bit more international when in 2020 an English translation patch was released. This is a boon for a single language dweeb like myself, but also means I would need to pirate it anyway. At least, that's the rationale I'm using. And yes, the standard intro music is totally not a great fit for this game. So let's cut that right out and dive headfirst into the bizarre gem that's LSD Dream Emulator. This is not my first rodeo with experimental Japanese PlayStation games. Earlier this year, I reviewed the underwater exploration game Aquanaut's Holiday. I enjoyed it, and at least own a physical copy, but it got me thinking about that strange LSD game I've kept hearing about over the years. The Pico mem card finally pushed me over the line, since I've never liked the way PS1 emulation played or looked, so here we are. Much like Aquanaut's Holiday, LSD is an exploration game where you can do nothing but roam. Unlike Aquanaut's Holiday, you can die, but there's no way to defend yourself or be limber in any way. You can't even jump. The goal is to explore a series of connected and increasingly bizarre locations, the contents of which are generated by the dark, dank corners of your subconscious while you sleep, or something like that. One moment you're in an innocent looking apartment, the next thing you're in wherever the hell this is supposed to be.
Bazooko's Circus is what the whole hep world would be doing Saturday night if the Nazis had won the war.
Each area is connected by tunnels, although don't expect them to always go to the same place. Interestingly, or annoyingly depending on how you view it, you're also teleported by touching basically anything in the game world. This is an easy way to rapidly see something different, but also a hindrance if you do it by accident. There were a few occasions where I unintentionally clipped a wall and teleported without wanting to. Some of that inquisitiveness suddenly ripped from you can be disappointing. As I mentioned, you can die, although this is easily avoidable. The game doesn't explicitly indicate what will kill you if touched, although it's usually obvious. Walking into a shark's fin did me in one time, for example. Should have seen that one coming. Otherwise, you can fall to your doom, which will end a dream. Fitting for me, since I've had so many dreams end exactly like that. Dreams don't last forever though, and after 10 minutes, the dream will end regardless of what's going on. It's here we see a graph. This, in a way, rates the dream you just had. Split between static, upper, dynamic, and downer, no one is really sure how it works. Fans of the game have even hacked the game's code to decipher what it means without any success of understanding it further. Personally, most of my dreams landed near the middle. My dreams were just average, I guess. Much like real life, honestly. With each new dream, or day, as the game puts it, things start to devolve in the gaming world. Weirder and weirder events will be witnessed, but the look of the environment will also change. The geometry doesn't budge, but the textures will gradually become more abstract. This may have something to do with how your graph is tracking, but no one apart from the creators really know. In a way, it's a very early form of a 3D environment being procedurally generated as you play. There's not much else to mention feature-wise, but after 20 in-game days, a flashback option will be made available, which allows you to view abridged versions of previous dreams. This is the only way to experience the same dream twice, since the game world will change with each new day. There is an unsettling and unsavory character lurking around, referred to as the Grey Man. He can be avoided, but if you come across him on your travels, he'll slowly amble towards you. If he gets a chance to touch you, you'll flash out of existence. You won't die, but this does mean that flashbacks won't be available for that day. While LSD Dream Emulator lacks in gameplay mechanics, or features in general, it does achieve its goal, emulating dreams, just like the title advertises. While its dated visuals do obviously stand out when you begin and potentially remove you from what the game is aiming for, they end up enhancing the game more than you'd expect. I can't quite put my finger on it. Something about the simple nature of the graphics results in everything seeming very dreamlike. The direction the game pushes you as you explore no doubt lends to this, but there are so many aspects that reminded me of my own dreams on a deeper level than just remembering them. It was more of a feeling, which is a very simplistic way of explaining it, but I just don't have the words. Scenarios where you're falling, or being chased by something unknown, or seeing something clearly for a split second only, the design of the game is incredibly clever. I don't think any PS1 game has ever sent genuine shivers down my spine. It reminds me of a horror indie game I played on Switch called Paratopic. I don't know what it is, but those warped, low resolution graphics have the ability to do freaky things. The lack of modern quality results in an uncanniness that is straight up weird. Having said that, I wouldn't call LSD a horror game per se, but it does mention on the back of the box not to play before bed, lest you experience night terrors because of it. To mix things up, although not like this game needed any more mixing up, there are quite a few video cutscenes which count as full days. These are as open to interpretation as the in-game visuals and go full turbo. Each one is most definitely trying to convey some sort of indirect message, but as you'd expect, it's up to the viewer to decide for themselves what the hell is going on. On the audio side of things, you're treated to a continuous stream of annoying footstep sounds as you walk. The sound itself slightly changes as you walk over different materials, but doesn't add to the atmosphere at all. It might have ruined it completely if its continuous nature didn't make it so easy to phase out. The endless shenanigans going on help in that regard too. You just don't notice the step sounds after a while. Otherwise, the music is terrific. The game features 490 tracks that are played in different patterns as the game progresses. Supposedly, the way it plays is based on whatever cutscene you last watched, and is also influenced by transporting around the game map. While not as dynamic as the developing graphics, the music does a lot to add to the vibe of everything devolving for better or worse. You can even listen to remixes of these patterns on the game creator's Spotify, and I did exactly that while writing this script. Speaking of the creators, who are they? The game was developed by Asmic Ace Entertainment, but a contemporary artist named Osamu Sato was the primary drive behind the project. It's his Spotify I mentioned earlier. The premise of the game is based on the Dream Journal by Hiroku Nishikawa, who was an employee of the development studio. Astoundingly, this journal was kept for 10 years before the game was made. To aid in the arty nature of LSD, a special edition was released that's rarer and worth even more money than the standard edition. It came with a CD called Lucy in the Sky with Dynamites, a play on words of a Rolling Stones song or something, I don't know. And this includes remixes of the game's soundtrack. Interestingly, the album on Spotify is a 2018 remix of that. Remix Inception! An art book also came bundled called Lovely Sweet Dreams, one of the many phrases that have the acronym LSD. What, you thought this game was about drugs or something? This book includes an array of works by different artists, coupled with excerpts from the original Dream Journal. While the game didn't make too many waves during its 1998 release, it's gone on to have a cult following. The only official recognition was a release on the Japanese PSN in 2010, although I'm unsure if it's still available. Still, its renewed popularity in the last decade has resulted in its own subreddit and wiki, as well as becoming a streaming favourite due to its unpredictability. A fan remake was even in the works for several years, although this hasn't received any updates since 2020. Guess what's the biggest discussion point on that subreddit? Yep, the graph. It's still a mystery all these years later, and I like that. It's very rare that a game would exist back then, let alone still have an impact now. LSD Dream Emulator isn't a great game, with game in quotations, but that's fine because that was obviously never its initial goal. It can be overwhelming experiencing it at the start, but looking back in retrospect, it's clear the designers achieved their goal. I appreciate that. Too many games these days feel like they need to sit in a particular basket. It's nice to see something buck the trend that's not strictly an indie game. Anyway, I'm rambling a bit now, so I'll end it at that. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.